The paradigm is changing where like you actually build, and people are doing this with other tools in the ecosystem. You build many of these things in parallel at the same time, which is really exciting.
This is like a very complex app that we just like whipped up in like 10 minutes.
The full end-to-end runtime was 7 minutes and the app works, which is crazy. It's been fully live for every single Googler for the last like month and a half. People across Google, I think, have built like 300,000 internal apps already.
Wow. Out of curiosity, are there any interesting apps that you've seen being built internally at Google?
The reality of what's happening right now is like Google is building Google on top of AI Studio. And then I think the fun part is that you'll be able to have a deep research agent working with a Lyria 3 agent. And so at the end, you can literally write the string of code that is like, go do deep research. And instead of me reading a long academic report at the end, turn it into a song. Hopefully we're delivering on this mission of helping you bring anything to life with Gemini, which is exciting.
Logan, excited to have you again. Been almost a year since we last chatted. What are some of
That's
the new
crazy.
exciting things? Yes, it's crazy. What are some of like the new and exciting things that are coming out of AI Studio?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because I've been seeing all the stuff that you all have been doing, which is why I've just been seeing all the posts. Yeah, I mean, it's a super exciting time. I think we just landed Gemini 3.1, which is really exciting. So our new sort of frontier state-of-the-art pro model, which is awesome. So crushes a bunch of the benchmarks. The model is also like really good at coding and sort of building front end apps, which is super exciting. The week before that, we sort of launched Deep Think, which is sort of even more state of the art, uses sort of a parallel reasoning in order to get like even better at solving a bunch of like really difficult STEM problems, math, science, engineering, etc. Um, and then now I'm super excited that we've sort of brought a bunch of the new model improvements as well as the anti-gravity coding agent and a whole new full stack runtime into AI Studio so that everyone can vibe code full apps, which is really exciting. So I think we've been doing the work behind the scenes, and sort of actually a bunch of folks in the ecosystem have been testing and giving us feedback. And this experience is now fully rolled out to everyone, which is really exciting. So like you can really, uh, hopefully we're delivering on this mission of helping you bring anything to life with Gemini, which is exciting.
Awesome. I feel like everyone who is watching this right now probably wants to see the vibe coding thing. That's like the main sort of like, thing here. So if you want, we can just jump right in and give the viewers what they want.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let me share my screen and we'll do some stuff. All right, you should be able to see the current version of AI Studio in the UI, which looks very similar. We'll actually have a new version of this rolling soon, which is really exciting. So hopefully we'll see that. If you want to go and like get a quick look at some of the new experiences and like an example of some of the things that we've enabled, one of the big new ones is other than just like the coding agent being a lot smarter and able to do stuff, is actually building multiplayer experiences. So this is a lot of fun because you can just like share a link and then we can do this together. So actually, we should try doing this and build a game together. Let's
Oh,
go. I'm gonna go back to the start screen and I'm gonna do my yap to app and to text to voice or voice to text, and we'll build something.
cool.
All right. So I want a multiplayer Dino run game like the Chrome loading page has, and it should look just like the Chrome Dino run experience when you get a 404 or whatever it is. Except I want to be multiplayer, so there should be like a lobby. I should be able to load in, and then if there's other players who are loaded in, there should be like a clock timer, and then we should all once there's at least two players, it should kick off, and we should be able to play against each other in Dino Run. So make that app, make it multiplayer, and let's try it out.
Yeah.
So we'll yap to app this, and then we'll kick this off and see what happens. And it'll take a little bit of time to make this. So this is actually one of the, maybe one of the trade-offs from a new capability perspective is the model is like much more capable for certain generations. Though it actually takes longer because it's building a full backend and doing all this other stuff for you. Um, the nice thing though is you can actually like leave this, or you can like close the tab and come back to it later. So it's like completely async happening on the back end. If you want to follow up, you can. It'll sort of be done later on, so you don't need to actually like
Nice.
sit here and watch. And we can look at a couple of other examples, or we can do some magic editing and cut to when it's done in
Yeah,
in a
100%.
couple of minutes. But Yeah. Any questions? I mean, the other core parts of the experience, like we updated some of the sharing components of the experience. Publishing is a little bit refined, so there's like some like nice quality of life improvements across the experience. Um, those are really sort of like the main updates, and this like main new capability, again, like the coding agent that's running and actually doing this is it's a really similar harness to the one that's used inside of anti-gravity. So like you should be able to unlock comparably difficult things across both products.
Awesome, amazing. I guess one of the questions that everyone watching this would have right now is there's, so many of these other coding products out there as well. Some of them are actually powered by Gemini. What sort of differentiates this experience from that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's like a bunch of different buckets of this, of like the things that we're thinking about that are unique to what we're doing. It's hooked up like in a first class way to all of the like Google AI infrastructure. So like you don't need, there's like no additional stuff. It's in AI Studio, which is also where you get your API key to build with Gemini, et cetera, et cetera. So like all of that is like a first class citizen of the experience. And part of the intent is like, we think a majority of the apps that are going to be built in the future are like AI native apps. So we're looking at it from that perspective of like, how can we really help you enable these like AI native product experiences and app experiences, et cetera. Um, the next step of this is like, again, it's Google. We have, the a massive cloud infrastructure business as well. And I think like all of that detail is taken care of for you. So this is like the North Star for us is like let you build on top of all the cloud infrastructure that actually powers like Google in a lot of ways,
Yeah,
and let you do that without having to see any of the complexity of what's happening.
yeah,
Um, there's a few other interesting threads of like things that we're going to do that I think will be like super differentiated. The last one is like I think it's just a really generous free experience. So we want people like I think part of the mission for GDM is build AI, make sure it is sort of beneficial and accessible to humanity. So I think this accessibility part is like very top of mind. So you can go today, try, Gemini 3.1 Pro for free, start vibe coding your first app. Doesn't cost you anything, and sort of as you hit some of the limits and you want to scale and go to production, that's sort of where the where paying comes into play. But you can sort of build the things you want initially, which is
yeah,
differentiated. I
yeah.
love.
I have a few questions there because a lot of folks who've tried to vibe code apps have run into a few like roadblocks. So I just want to ask some questions around, those pieces. So first question would just be database, right? Like you do need to go find your own Supabase sort of situation, or is that getting taken care of here?
Yeah, this is a great question. I'll kick off one that uses a database as well, and we can look at that, and I'll come up with something. I have some other ideas for.
Oh, let's do
Actually,
it.
I can probably add a database to this example. So databases at the time of this recording, it just depends on when it goes out. May or may not be out, but it's like actively in internal testing and dog food right now, and we're putting the final polish on it. So it might be out when this episode comes out. It might not, but it's like imminently coming, and it'll be batteries included. So like you add a database, it's one click. You don't need to go like jump to a bunch of other services and get your API keys and drag and drop a bunch of stuff. It just works. So I'll switch over to this screen and you can see this right here. So there's literally like a button that says add database and off.
Oh,
So
nice.
I'll click
Yeah.
that. Um, and then let's use Google search maybe, and let's use we'll add Gemini as well, and I'll say, make me a simple, I don't know what kind of app I want that uses a database. I'll do like a message forum or something simple like that. Make me a simple message forum where users can see the posts signed out, but if they want to comment, etc., they need to sign in with Google, use Firebase to do this. I think I just want to make sure we're using Firebase and Firestore behind the scenes. I don't know how like well tuned this early access experience is, so I'll just be very explicit to use it. But
Uh,
the ideal world is like
Yeah.
you won't actually, customers don't need to know what we're using behind the scenes. If you want something specifically, you could say, you know, um, yeah, use Supabase, and then it'll sort of tell you, hey, you have to put in your Supabase API key here if you want this to work. So, but the ideal experience is we want it to be accessible for people who don't know that they need Supabase or Firestore or any of these other
Exactly.
services out there.
Exactly. That's one of the biggest blockers, right? Like you try to build an app, and as soon as you want to build an Airbnb for X, or a Spotify for Y, and as soon as you run into databases, if you're not technical, that ends up being a huge blocker.
100%. So eliminate that blocker is the goal.
Yeah. I think you already sort of answered that question through what you just did, but for folks who are watching, what's the situation here with APIs? So, if you're looking to do, search or music or images, is that like one click out of the box? Do you need to find your API key? What are you supposed to do there for those features?
Yeah. So if the model will sort of detect what APIs and sort of it'll write code for whatever the APIs are that it needs. Um, and then the big difference is that like it'll just dynamically tell you like in order for this API to work, it needs an API key and thus like it'll like actually prompt you in the chat on the left hand side to do this, which is really nice. So we built this new secrets manager experience. So you can go to secrets and you can sort of put in your different API keys here and like manage it securely inside of this environment. And then actually when you go deploy it so that other people can see it, it sort of obfuscates a bunch of this information so that you don't
Of course,
accidentally
yeah.
like hard code your API key inside your app.
Fair enough, yeah. And I'm assuming you can use API keys outside of the Google ecosystem as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So it works. I mean, we're like very early in setting up all these integrations. So we will have integrations outside the Google ecosystem. Today, the ones that we've sort of just like done the early work on have been Gemini API and others, just because it's also our team that does it. But the goal is sort of make it easy for people to use the tools that they want to. So lots of conversations with other ecosystem partners to make that happen.
Nice. How long have you guys been working on this internally now?
It's a good question. I think it's been like 3 or 4 months of engineering work to basically like had to rewrite all of the infrastructure to make this possible. And we've also done like really, I mean, not we had a bunch of like hiccups as we were rolling out, so we didn't test enough, but like it's been fully live for every single Googler, people inside of Google for the last like month and a half. And so far the people across Google, I think, have built like 300,000 internal apps
Oh,
already
wow.
using this new experience, which is crazy. So yeah, that's like that will be a figure we publicize, but it's been wild to see like the level of adoption inside of Google of this. So let's see if this works actually. I'll go to this link. I'll share this tab instead, and you and I should be able to play this together. So I'm going to send you, assuming it all works, which I'm worried about. I'll send you the studio chat link, and you should be able to
Cool.
join. And then I have to move our little thing, and we'll see if does. Oh, I think you're in. You're in. I don't know how the game works, but let's see.
Let's see.
Press the space bar to jump. I died. Space bar didn't work,
Yeah, I died as
and let's
well. It's too fast.
let's let's see. I wanna Dino run, returning to lobby in a few seconds.
Okay, let's
Okay.
do this.
The game is gonna start. Spacebar didn't work for me. Did it work for you?
Oh, it's
Oh
working.
no, up arrow works.
Oops. Oh,
Okay.
well,
So it's good. So the game is crap, but the actual like multiplayer mechanics works, which is the fun part. So I'm gonna grab a screenshot and we'll do a little bit of iteration on the fly, which is fun. So I think we should go and add a bunch of stuff to fix some of those problems in the game. So I just put in a quick prompt to go and make it so that the model will go update the app so I can actually jump over and dodge some of the stuff and hopefully add some tests, which is very helpful to like make sure this functionality works. The other fun thing is like I know we're doing this together and it's like easy to I can send you the link and we can actually play it. But the other fun thing is like you can literally, if you're doing this by yourself, you can just duplicate the tab that you're in and sort of it'll use the same container since it's your signed in version of it.
yeah,
And that way you can sort of like test some of these multiplayer experiences together, which is really helpful. And you don't need to like go find a friend
yeah,
really quickly to like go and test the multiplayer experience. So just makes that iteration loop fast, which is fun.
yeah. A lot of folks, I was about to say, uh, don't know exactly what I mean, they don't know how to describe the output that they want, and they want to upload screenshots. Is that something that's getting shipped in this version or not?
Yeah, 100%. So this like uploading screenshots as an example is like the most common. It's something we already support. It's something the Gemini models are actually like state of the art at, which is really exciting. And sort of something that like works really, really well. So yeah, it that works. I do this all the time. It's the most common workflow I have actually is like I screenshot something, I say build me an app like this or build me something that looks like this or change this in this specific way. So um all that's possible. But let's look really quick. This was the other app that we kicked off. We wanted a database. And so this is the new experience or an early version of the new experience folks will see with database support. So you'll be able to sync across devices, data stored over time, and it's actually free to get started, which is awesome. So I'm going to enable the database and hopefully that will just work and the continued setup will happen as I've accepted the terms of service and all that stuff. So it's a good example of like we're trying to make this as batteries included as possible so that you don't need to like jump between 5 different services and click and drag things between all of them. It'll just like happen inside of the chat experience, and it'll just work, which is the goal.
Nice, that's very nice. Yeah, I've done, I don't wanna take any, like, apps name, but I've, initially vibe coded a lot of stuff, and I had to, like, learn how to do all the DB stuff myself. And, yeah, it's definitely a bit of a pain for someone who hasn't done that before. So I definitely like, yeah, it's just becomes so much more accessible if you can just, like, click a few things and just make it work.
It's just scary. I mean, that was like my like I just went through this over the holidays of like building my first like large scale end-to-end production app that like had all the bells and which is like I'd always like
Yeah.
done something incrementally or like forked someone's template that had a bunch of this stuff built in. So like it was the first time I ever did the whole thing end to end. And it was like, I was slightly confident because I had these tools and I've been a software engineer before, and I'm sort of well, I was hopeful that I could build it, and, like, I was able to, but I think there's a lot of people who are just, like, see any of these things and it's, like, a little bit scary. So I think it is definitely top of mind to, like, make sure we're meeting users where they are, and I think from this experience's perspective, like, we're trying to meet even more people where they are. Like, there's obviously anti-gravity is really powerful if you're a developer. There's lots of third-party tools that are really powerful if you're a developer, but there's a whole cohort of many millions of people who like don't want to go and look at code. And so how can you sort of build a great experience for those folks is like what we are trying to do in AI Studio. Um, and yeah, hopefully folks enjoy the experience.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we at Superhuman and the code have not used this yet, but part of our audience really wants these expressive animated guides, and they want them to be interactive and so on. So, with thanks to vibe coding, what we've been able to do, like, the marketing team and the content team and the writers, what they've been able to do is like when they find something interesting, they're able to just quickly vibe code something that's like very interactive and looks highly polished to the point where if you did this a year ago you would think like we hired like a dev studio or we have some internal engineers and this went through like some kind of design process and that there's 5 people behind the scenes, but now someone can just do these things within 5 minutes. So something like an interactive resource is a very basic way of doing this. Obviously, you're building games. Like, games didn't even cross my mind, but that's so interesting that you can just build like vibe code a game directly like that. I was also talking to someone else, can't remember exactly which company it was at, but they said that what they're seeing with vibe coding now is folks are trying to build their own thing and they're trying to sell them to their own company. Right? So if they see an
Hmm.
outside vendor is doing something for their company, they'll try to build that thing that the vendor does, try to replace it because they're already internal, so they don't have to go through like a sales process to test this whole thing. They'll build it and they'll basically go to their team and say, "Hey, like you're paying this vendor X amount of money. I built this thing for like a few $1,000s. Like, do you want to subscribe to this, or do you maybe want to like just buy this and give me like a one-time payment or something?" So we're hearing like, I that's like a new like, level of I guess entrepreneurship that's emerging where you just like keep your job, build a thing, sell it to your company, or maybe I do a subscription and then yeah, make a little bit of money on the side.
This is crazy. I mean, this was actually another one of my side projects over the last few months, which was like I looked at all my subscriptions in December and was like, what are these like SaaS products? And this was actually for my
Yep.
podcast. I was using a bunch of like random products to like do a landing page for my podcast and have an RSS feed and all these other things,
Yeah.
which like I wasn't particularly happy with any of them. They were all fine. They're all seemingly reasonable products. And the goal was like, can I cancel all of these and try to build a bunch of the infrastructure myself? And I think that you sort of see this like example of that happening internally at companies as well, which is also just like crazy. to think that that's the world that we live in right now, and, like, the tools actually make that possible, which is exciting. So, we gotta go see now, if the updated game is working. I'm waiting for you in this lobby, I think.
Oh, cool. Let me hop over. Okay, sweet. I'm here.
I redeployed it, so hopefully it works, and hopefully it's the same link as I sent you before. I think it is. I think it redeploys to the
I'm just
same
gonna
link, so
refresh it. Okay, I'm in the lobby now. Sweet.
you're gonna hopefully get cooked. Alright, let's
Okay,
see.
this seems to be a lot better. Okay, okay.
This is also really basic. I mean, it's trying to copy the look and feel. How do we both die on the same one? Yeah, it's trying to copy the look and feel, but a good example of, like, literally 0 shot. We didn't do anything, like, crazy on this. Like, it works, it's functional, you can do the iteration, you could probably, like, change the graphics, you could add some additional logic, but, like, like, bones are functional, and I think the bones are actually, like, the hard thing to have made happen in this process, which is, like, get it hooked up to the cloud, get all the other things, make multiplayer work concurrently. So a lot of fun to, like, make these experiences possible.
Yeah, I think for folks who are looking at this and thinking, oh, it's just like a basic game on a screen, I can't even tell you like how difficult this is to do if you're just like starting from scratch and learning how to do this yourself and making a multiplayer, having a database and having logins. And I don't even know what the graphics stuff like. I've never worked on a graphics product, so no idea how to do this stuff. But this is like a very complex app that we just like Logan just whipped up in like 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, actually, I can tell you the full end-to-end runtime was 370 seconds the first time and 220 seconds the second time. So 500 seconds, whatever. So 6 minutes or whatever it is, 7 minutes. And the app works, which is crazy.
Reading something on Twitter recently, and it was about, it's like the product isn't just the end product, but like the process and the productivity that you're getting from it is also the product. Like, we're seeing some of these apps now, which, say you've done X amount of work or produced X amount or said X amount of words per day or something like that. So I think could be interesting to surface how many lines of code you're generating. Because for someone to just sit down and see, hey, this thing ran for 3 minutes, but it generated like hundreds, maybe thousands of lines of code, will probably put things slightly in perspective for them.
Yeah, no, 100%. I don't know. I'll get the count. I think it's a good push. Like getting all the metadata about the work that's been done, I think is like an important part of telling this story. And like the tokens and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
is it's a good push. I'll add it. I think our other app is almost done. It's been going for 478 seconds, and it looks like it is just finishing right now. And then we're going to have a forum. And I'm curious. Actually, the real test for me is, does sign in with Google actually work on this page? If anyone's ever tried to integrate like sign in with whatever, it's usually not an easy process. You have to like go get a bunch of keys in a bunch of different
Yeah.
places and string it all together. Um, so let's see whether or not this actually works. Okay, I'm getting a pop-up screen, which I don't know if you won't see this
Yeah, I
because I'm
pop up.
sharing my whole screen, but it does indeed work. I'm able to go in and select my user account. I'll click on it, continue. It's like the normal sign in with Google process, and then you can see the screen just updated. I'm now signed in. This is like my Google employee account, and I'll make a new post.
Yeah.
And actually, I'll sell you, or I'll send you the link for this, and we can both test and make sure this works, so that I'm not bluffing my experience. Oh, nice. The app's actually already published, which is great. So I think because it's using a database, it got published. So I'll copy this. It's actually funny. We were having this conversation internally because we were talking about the thread of like, hundreds of thousands of internal apps built across Google. Um, there's like a lot of the systems inside of Google and the way that people like write code and do all this stuff like doesn't assume you're doing this in parallel. It assumes there's like one engineer for one
Yeah.
system. And I think this is like we're seeing this in AI Studio now, but like the paradigm is changing where like you actually build, and people are doing this with other tools in the ecosystem. You build many of these things in parallel at the same time, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
Um,
Out of curiosity, are there any interesting apps that you've seen being built internally at Google, or are you sort of like not privy to that information yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think the simple answer to this is like choose your favorite product at Google. They're building on top of AI Studio, and sort of we'll sort of have more. We'll be more vocal about this story, and we'll sort of tell more about this story
Yeah.
in the months and weeks to come. But
Yeah.
like the reality of what's happening right now is like Google is building Google on top of AI Studio, which is really, really exciting. So like, choose your favorite Google product. There's teams across Google who are using that product, who are like building the next version of it using AI Studio. Um, and so that is like the like mainline use case. There's also like tons of these like internal productivity apps that people are building, like sales teams automating things, or customer service teams like looking at data in new and interesting ways. So um, I mean, the use case for me is like we do AI Studio in AI Studio, which is really fun. So like we have an internal template gallery, and we just go to AI Studio, we fork it, and then I can just like add in whatever feature I want and then share it with the engineering team and say like, look at this cool new feature, we should build this thing. Um, and I actually did this over 2 weekends ago for like a bunch of new like homepage experiences in AI Studio. I just like forked the version we had, added the feature.
Building it is a process in the sense of like, your initial prompt is like two words and no, sorry, two lines. And in two lines, you can't capture the complexity of what you want to build. Maybe there's a world where, like the AI can magically guess exactly what you had in your mind that you haven't even like described yet. But I think over time, you just need to learn how to debug a little bit and work through like each part of like the app and then do that. I think that's where like templates help, right? With template, at least you know where to start with, or you have a screenshot and that helps you sort of like, fork it and build something more. But I find that, starting from complete scratch with just like a two line on like a two or three sentences of what you want to build is kind of hard. I think that's definitely one of the limitations of the UI.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think it's something that needs to be. It also is like it's the opportunity though. Like if you can make it so that that part works, like it's a huge unlock for people, because like I think folks are like generally get worried when they see things that have to be debugged. And so anything you can do to fix that, I think is like super yeah, is super helpful. So hopefully we'll push the rock up the hill and folks will get through the first 5 prompts and not need to see anything.
So I saw you sort of like, do the audio input on your sort of the first app that you were building. Is that like one of the internal Google models? Are you guys, is that sort of like an ASR plus a model, or is that like sort of like a unified situation? What are you guys doing with that? Or you
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually, the way that it works right now is um, it is using Gemini's text to speech, speech to text, in order to look at this. So it is taking the audio and processing it, and doing stuff with it. So it is using our models. I actually think we also do some like ad hoc cleanup to like if you just like ramble a little bit, it just like
Yeah,
tries to like make the thing you're
exactly.
doing a little bit more coherent. So this was a large multiplayer laser tag game. It actually looks like there's other people in this game. Oh yeah, these are a bunch of bots that are uh pre-made. I don't know what system disabled means. There's more bots. So lots of this is a real person, I think. Yeah, these are the pre-made games, so I think when random people show up, they're able
Oh, that's so cool.
to join in into these games, which is fun. It's a little bit I kinda wanna change some of the attributes of this game to make it a little bit easier, but, yeah, this person is really trying hard to beat me. So the fun thing about this, independent of, like, the fact that it's a cool example, is that literally with a single click, I can go and remix this and make my own version. So I'll do that. I'll make the remix, and then you're like, "Hey, I don't like the graphic style," or I don't like whatever it is. You can have your own version and sort of keep doing the iteration. So I love the gallery from that perspective. Is we tried to give you like a bunch of great examples of like things to get started with, from a code perspective, and then we can let you copy it, make whatever changes you want, and run with that example. So we're trying to invest more in this like template gallery to make it easy to sort of get started and build experiences with the batteries included.
Yeah, I was looking at that and like my first thought was, what if the next Doom is just gonna be vibe coded, right? Just like this. Could be the case, right? Because a lot of it is just, isn't even just about like just like the graphics and stuff. It's also about like the game dynamics and all these other sort of like things that make it so addictive. So yeah, that was actually really cool. Yeah, I was just looking at it. I wanted to play that game.
Yeah, we've done a bunch of other like the analogous version of that for internal like building for like teams building internal stuff is and cool. Now, nice. I have my like forked copy of this, and I could make a bunch of changes if I want. Um, the analogous version of this is we've seen like teams like building their own collaboration tools, which is really interesting. So like things that like you normally don't natively have like multiplayer collaboration. And there's like a bunch of like kind of like boring examples of this, but like some of the cool ones I've actually seen teams inside of Google using is like multiplayer prompt collaboration in real time to sort of like see sort of like almost like building mini AI arenas to like test out different prompts for their use cases. And sort of you can like build this multiplayer shared version, send it to a teammate, and then you can sort of do this collaboration together. And it's a good example of like, sometimes the products you're using don't actually have that like multiplayer real
Yeah.
time collaboration bit. And you can literally just add that to whatever the like problem is you're trying to solve, which is really, really exciting. So I think it'll be cool to see how people use this and all the bugs they uncover and also all the cool experiences they come up with.
Yeah. So first thing I wanted to ask you is, again, been almost 12 months since we last chatted. We have the new 3.1 Pro, we have Lyria, we have Flash 3, everything else. For developers who are, sort of like living in this overwhelm of information and new models coming out every day, new benchmarks coming out every day, what is sort of, the high level summary of what you should be looking at when you're looking at Google AI Studio and the APIs? Like, what is like the quick summary of what's what?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think maybe like the things that are newest that folks maybe don't know a ton about that are top of mind. We just launched the Interactions API, which is a sort of new unified interface. It's our next gen API that's sort of built to interact with both agents and models. And I think that what's interesting about this is we see the world going in this direction of like, is it a model? Is it an agent? I think that's going to be like
Yeah.
increasingly a question that people are asking themselves. And so we wanted to make, as we were thinking about like how do we build a next gen incredible developer experience in the API, we wanted that to sort of like be baked in as a first class item. So we launched it. It's available in beta right now, the new interactions API, and we also launched with our first agent, which is deep research. So I think deep research is sort of laying the foundation for a bunch of this stuff. We'll soon have other hosted agents, which Google creates, but then we'll also make it so that developers can build their own agents and sort of have secure sandbox environments and be able to sort of write code on the fly and do all the things that they need to do to build useful working agentic experiences. Um, and I think the primitive or like the direction that we're trying to go in general is similar to what the vibe coding experience actually is like, how do we remove as much of the complexity for somebody building an AI startup as humanly possible? Like, I don't want to have to think about the details of like these sandboxes that I'm using and are they secure and do they scale and all these other things and how do they wind down and come back online? Like, I would ideally like to just like have an agentic experience and have that as like a primitive that I can build on top of. And so that's the direction
Yeah.
that we're going is like make the batteries included experience work. Um, and then I think the fun part is that you'll be able to sort of orchestrate the agents with models in these like composable ways. So just like out of the box, you'll be able to have a deep research agent working with a Lyria 3 agent. And so at the end, you can literally write the string of code that is like go do deep research, and instead of like me reading a long academic report at the end, turn it into a song. And so I think there'll be lots of these like cool, really interesting ways of doing this. And like the level of code that's required to do that is like super, super simple. Like on the order of a few lines of code, which is exciting. So you could like technically you could do anything with software. So that was possible before. The thing that was complicated is like orchestrating all that together, and like the token cost of having an agent do it or the human cost of
Yeah.
having a software engineer go and do that for you. So trying to make all that super simple for people is very much top of mind.
Since we last talked, Google was just, gearing up, releasing, Gemini to start at top benchmarks. Since then, adoption for Google's APIs has, safe to say, exploded at this point. Why is that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think we solved a bunch of foundational sort of like friction points that developers had. We still have a bunch more stuff that we're pushing on, but like we've eliminated a lot of the friction to get started. We just actually rolled out a bunch more stuff in AI Studio the last couple of weeks to make the billing experience easier. We have a bunch of stuff soon to make getting access to like higher rate limits and quota easier as well for developers. So we keep chipping away at the rough edges. Also, I think like the Gemini models have become best in class in a bunch of different areas, which I think at the end of the day, like, um, developers are choosing to use the model that's best, that's also like most cost effective. And so you see like for gen media, for multimodal, for some of these like large context use cases, Gemini is like clearly the best and differentiated. And there's areas where we're trying to close a bunch of gaps, but you still get like incredible performance. Like for, we might not have the best coding model in every domain, but like building websites as an example, some of the like different like animation use cases like all work incredibly well state of the art with Gemini. So I think you'll see us continue to like hill climb more of those areas, which is exciting.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know about other developers, but for our team, like one thing I can say, a lot of what you said as well. But one of the reasons why we're relying very heavily on Flash 3 in our latest product, it seems to be much better at role following and rule following than other models, right? Like we rarely see it break character and not follow the rule. Uh Whereas like with other APIs, we've definitely had that struggle. I mean, obviously, you can go up and you can like get like a pro model or something for, across the board, but that obviously just becomes too expensive, right? So like with Flash, we're seeing is probably like for price, for just like not breaking character and like doing things as you're supposed to just like do them right there and then. We've seen like the most reliability there. Um, Again, I keep going back to our last conversation because so much has changed, and it's just nice to like look back and see like where we are right now and where things are heading. I remember a lot of our last conversation centered around like when you're building things, like there's this trade-off with speed, cost, and quality. I think that's like improved significantly, right? So for example, the product that we're working on internally now, I shared with you a couple days ago, we just couldn't we had that idea last year. We just couldn't pursue that idea for like cost and latency. The capability was there, but cost and latency, we couldn't pursue it. Suddenly, cost and latency has moved to a point with Flashy where we're like, holy crap, this thing finally works. Like, let's build this and let's release this publicly. My question to you is like, which three of those do you feel like is the biggest bottleneck right now?
I think it's more I think there's more of a bottleneck on quality and speed than there is on cost. I think just like in the current environment, and I don't mean there's nuance to this, which is like there's lots of money flowing in the AI world right now. So I think like generally like there are people who have money to pay for these experiences, and principally it's actually because like they're creating economic opportunity. I think we obviously would love to have cheaper stuff, and that's great, and hopefully we'll keep pushing in that direction as well. Um, but I also think it's cool to see that like the minimum level of intelligence that's needed also feels like it's going down for some of these use cases. But then at the same time, the like demand for frontier intelligence continues to increase. And then as the demand for frontier intelligence increases, you also then see like the bottleneck is speed. Like there's a reason people are running like 5 coding agents in parallel. It's because they can't get enough out of the models and like they need to parallelize them in order to get speed. And so if they had like,
Yeah.
10,000 tokens per second from an inference perspective, they would probably only have one version of the thing running actually because there's like a cognitive overhead of parallelizing your work.
Yeah.
Um, and so I do think you'll continue to see like speed um, and cost like being intertwined and connected together. And those knobs are sort of like
Yeah.
independent of one another in some sense, which is interesting to see.
Yeah. Logan, I know you're sort of like probably have to run out in a couple of minutes as well, so we'll just wrap it here. Logan, thank you so much for this. We really appreciate this. Hopefully, we'll see you in less than 12 months next time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll see you at I/O this year, hopefully,
Oh
and
yeah,
we can
we'll be at IO for sure. Yeah, I'll see you there.
catch up and hang out in person.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on, and hopefully
Yeah.
excited to keep seeing the success of what y'all are building.